Okay, so during the construction of the bridge, did you think the noise was going to be this bad? Like, what were your concerns about it when construction was happening?
During the construction phase, we were prepared for a lot of noise, I think.
We were prepared for noise in the construction because, after all, there was the boom, 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 boom of the
Pile driver.
Yeah, the pile drivers. So that was pretty overwhelming. So once that stopped, it was actually quite delightful. However, we were overwhelmed with what happened when the bridge actually opened. We were away for the weekend or the week that it opened. We were out sailing, and we came back, and it was like,
there's this
what
sound
happened?
all the time.
A wall of sound. So I guess the answer is no, we weren't prepared for that. We'd been talking to all the neighbors, and in our walks over in the green belt there, and they would be saying, well, it's going to be noisy, and we'd be saying, oh, well, it's not going to be too bad. So yeah, we were a little surprised.
Dismayed with the reality of the actual bridge itself.
Yeah.
So I take it then the noise has significantly impacted you then?
I'm a poor sleeper. So from the standpoint of people saying, oh, you'll get used to it, no, because I'm a poor sleeper and I hear sounds. Now, one of the things that has come out of all the talk and all the meetings is that the Ministry of Transport did a study of the noise, but what they're using as their target is, quite frankly, a noise level that makes people deaf. It's a safety hazard. Well, that's not the point. This was put into our backyards in a well-established neighborhood where there was very little sound. Sure, there was some industrial noise, some train noise, but that comes and goes. This is all the time.
Constant.
And it starts at 5:30 every morning. I'm awake and I go, bridge noise.
It's not that we don't hear the birds, because we do hear the birds. We hear the birds. We still enjoy the garden, but there's always that constant swoosh. And until they get the expansion joints totally dealt with, there's the sound of the expansion joints, the croaking of the expansion joints. So yeah, it's overwhelming. It's hard to take, because we had made a point of checking the neighborhood out before we came. Sesame, leave it.
Before we came over, we made a point of checking the community plan as well, and at that point, the bridge was to be put down in
240th Street.
240th.
And so we knew, we spent a good year looking at homes and making a decision before we bought here. And we bought this particular home because we wanted to be on a green belt and have, the green belt around us, and we wanted the birds, and we liked walking through the, through the fields. And so this was a very well thought out, long thought out decision. And then all of a sudden the official community plan changed, and the bridge was moved from 240th to here. So it was a bit of a stunner for us.
Also, I'm going way beyond your question here, but one of the things that's really irritating is that the level of government that did this is this intermediate entity called TransLink that isn't elected, that just appears out of nowhere and says, oh, too bad for you, big X. And it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So then what's been your involvement to help with the bridge noise?
How did it get started? What's been our involvement with the bridge noise? We attended the meetings of angry neighbors once we realized we weren't the only ones that were really choked about this. Our big surprise, I must say, is that there are as few people that are really angry as there are.
Yeah, it's just the people who are really directly
line of sight. If you can see it, it's irritating.
Before that, we were involved with the petition. There was a petition in the neighborhood, in all of the neighborhoods, and we made a point of going up and collecting the signatures on our street. And so, we were involved with that way, because the petition then went on to City Hall, I believe, and to TransLink. So and then after the petition, and once the community meetings started, we were involved too. Sesame is being a real pain.
I'm afraid we should have a camera pointed in the other direction as the patient interviewer.
It's okay, this will be a great storytelling class. So then, do you feel the community's really come together to help fight TransLink and through the meetings, or?
Some parts of the
Parts
community
of it.
have come together. Again, the community it's quite amazing how few people are prepared to take action.
Yes.
And how few people sort of indicate that that they're impacted. Mind you, that's the way with people in any kind of, any kind of community issue. A lot of people will talk about it, but not too many people are actually prepared to take concrete action.
Yeah.
So, yes, some people have come together as a community to take action. Not enough. Not all of the people who are impacted by the noise.
No.
So what's been TransLink's opinion or argument about the bridge noise?
It meets the provincial standard.
It
But
meets
as I
the
said
standards
earlier,
set by the
the
Ministry of Transport.
right.
But those Ministry of
they're
Transport
very high noise
are
levels.
very high noise
These
levels.
are not quiet Sunday afternoon
Yeah.
in the backyard noise levels. These are, if you're a highway worker working on the highway and you're exposed to very high levels, that's what those are set for, not
It would
for
be
us.
different if we had been in a neighborhood bordering an industrial park before, but
Let rephrase that. We are a noisy
kind of
industrial
way.
park. Like
Yeah.
if we were right next to noise anyway, then so what?
But this is a green belt. This is a neighborhood, a residential neighborhood with green belt all around it. This is a well-established residential neighborhood, and
Yeah.
this wasn't part of any planning.
And to go further with that question, we have suggested a number of ways. The group that has come together have suggested a number of things that could be done to ameliorate the noise. And TransLink has, two parts to this. The original noise study, which turned out to be right, probably accurately identified the amount of noise, but it also identified the fact that the expansion joints make you aware that there is other noise. Every time there's a deet, it's like an alarm clock going off, or I can't think of a better example, where suddenly your attention is focused once again on the noise. So one of the arguments was, okay, we eliminate or try to reduce the expansion joint noise down to the usual traffic hum level, and people won't notice it as much. And they're right. However, that's inside the house. Once you get outside the house, as you know from your own backyard, you're faced with this noise again. I lost where I was going with that. There's another part to it.
What was your question?
Oh, the question was, how has TransLink responded? So,
Ah.
among other things, the studies clearly said that the noise is related to speed. Obviously, a very slow car doesn't make much noise. A really fast car, you hear wind noise and you hear tire noise. And there are well-documented and established noise studies from the City of Vancouver, it's been around for a long time, and the City of Delta, who have gone to great lengths in their way to try to, I'll call it, protect their residents from some of this noise. We had suggested reducing the speed on the bridge, which doesn't cost TransLink anything, and costs a commuter traveling at 80 kilometers an hour, 18 seconds. 18 seconds longer to reduce the speed by 10 kilometers an hour, which has a measurable effect. It reduces the noise by 50% roughly.
Yeah.
Now, the contrary argument is, oh, well, but there'll be speeders. Sure, there'll always be a percentage of speeders, but it's like, here's the rest of the traffic and here's the speeders. Well, if you reduce the whole chunk, then you've reduced the overall noise level, and that's what we're after here.
Unfortunately, when TransLink didn't address the problems right from the beginning,
Yep.
and they waited for the community action groups to come together, then they, and they didn't come with concrete solutions. They were supposedly listening to the community. The community, every person in the community has a different idea of what will be
Yeah,
the answer.
sure.
So some people say, oh, we'll put the trees in and block the line of sight, and that will also reduce the noise. Well, actually, that doesn't work, but that's one of the things that they're now having to look at. And then there's put noise barriers in, and so now they're having to look at that, and and now they're coming back to the community group and saying, oh, it's not feasible. So What are they doing? They're supposedly letting us come up with ideas and suggestions, and they're looking into those suggestions and telling us why they will or won't work. One thing they have done is they have changed the expansion joints, not to the kind of expansion joints that the community wanted them to put in, because unfortunately those ones cost way too much money, and would take too much time to deal with. So they put in an intermediary solution that probably it's helpful.
It has helped.
But it's not the answer. So
TransLink has kind of, they haven't just said nope, but they're sidestepping a lot.
Yeah.
Because one of the folks at the meeting, part of his professorial duties at Simon Fraser has at some stage been noise reduction, and he came up with a study that said, if you have artificial lane narrowing things or even lines on the bridge that make the lanes appear narrower, the speeder or the motorist's brain says, I have to slow down a little bit, I got to stay within the lanes, so you slow down.
Yeah,
so the noise goes down.
Traffic dampening, several traffic calming measures that could be introduced,
that have not been taken.
Such as that one, such as the barriers to narrow the lanes, and such as the reducing the speed.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they haven't done that.
So we're not
We'll
thrilled.
see. We will see.
Perfect.